I am Jeff Johnson, and this is The Takeaway. This is The Takeaway, recorded May 29th, 2016, Memorial Day, Making Steps Count, Session 3. Hey, it's great to have a live studio audience today. Well, it's not a studio. We are outdoors. It's Memorial Day weekend, and we are in San Jacinto in Druding Park, and we've just had a moment of prayer here, thanking the Lord for folks that have gone before us to fight for our freedom. And of course, you know, when we talk about freedom, freedom comes to us because of Jesus Christ. And today in service, we talked about the crossing. You see, there's all things in our lives that keep us from moving forward, and sometimes they're very, very physical. In relationship to the people of Israel, they had this river, and it was very large, and it was running at flood stage, and it was dirty, it was cold, and everything else, and they had to get beyond themselves in their brains to be able to take that step, not only to get across, but they literally had to take that first step to get in. Now, I don't know about you, but I've done a little bit of swimming in my time, and sometimes I put my foot in, and it's a little cold, and I think, well, maybe not today. Well, sometimes, folks, we no longer have that choice. We think we do. The Lord's calling us, but we're putting our foot in and we're saying, oh, Lord, I'm not so sure whether I can do this. There's several ways in order to know God's voice and certainly His calling for us to be able to move forward. And the first thing we have to remember is this. We have to consecrate ourselves. In other words, we have to surrender our desires, our own plans. If we want to effectively follow Jesus for our lives, we need to say, God, you know what? I die to myself and I live for you. I no longer live for my desires and my own dreams, but God, I want to do what you want me to do. But in order to do that, we have to say, God, search my heart. Look for anything in my life and remove that from me. Secondly, we have to believe that God wants to do something fresh. If we've been in faith any amount of time, we sometimes have some patterns, and we go, well, if I fast for 3 days, and then God's going to do this. And folks, you know what? Sometimes our spirituality is a little bit manipulative, if I can say it that way. What we have to understand is that God wants to do something fresh in you, and especially if you're going to move into the promise that He has had for your life, then you have to recognize that He's probably going to do something new in order to get you there. So if He's calling you into the river today, if He's calling you to go into the deep, if He's calling you to pass all the way through, recognize that He's got a plan and a purpose, and it may not look like what it's looked like before. The other thing we have to understand is that we have to let God go ahead of us. Sometimes we run ahead of God. And I'll tell you what usually happens when we run ahead of God is that we get frustrated. Perhaps we even get frustrated with God and we say, God's broken. He doesn't work in my life. The fact of the matter is, folks, God is not broken. It's us who's getting ahead of God, and He'll say, okay, I'll let you run ahead, but eventually you're going to come back because you need to come back. I think the best way in order to do this is to recognize that we get to move forward with Him, in step with Him, and that's absolutely key. Then we have this whole idea of facing the problem. In other words, we have to recognize that fear cannot keep us from moving forward. Fear is a great leveler in many people's lives. If enough people are afraid, nothing happens. No good comes out of it. So if we're going to be able to move forward, we have to face the problem at hand. And if God is calling us into it, then we don't really have to fear, because fear comes from the enemy. We have to be able to move forward in strength, recognizing that fear doesn't come from God, but peace and sound mind come from Him. And finally, we have to understand that God always does His best work, and we have to trust Him. And again, that's our controlling nature. We want to be able to just do it all our own way. But listen, folks, it's more exciting when God speaks into our life and then we begin to do it His way. Not only do we learn something, He is drawing us into a relationship with Him that is deeper, and it's fresh, and it's very mature, and He allows us to use that moving forward. Last thing I want to talk about. When we cross through those major spiritual battles in our life and we cross over into some of those things that are very, very significant, remember this, that it's not to your own glory, it's for the glory of God. It's not so that you can get someone to pat you on the back, and as nice as that is and encouraging, but we do that because God wants to do something in our lives. Not just once, not just twice, but He wants to do it as a regular event in our lives. And so our lives should be on a steady trajectory of victory to victory, not struggle to struggle, but to move into the place that which He has called us forward. So allow your testimony to be heard, allow it to be created in your life, see what God's going to do, and folks, that's what it's about in our crossing. God bless you. Thanks for watching The Takeaway this week. Please share it with all your friends, and we're having up over 1,000 views each and every week. We're believing to get over 5,000 here in the next few months, and you're a part of that. God bless you. Thanks for being here today.